This is where the Canadians go in the winter, apparently. Mexico, 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 China. Look at the temperature. It's about the same as it is at clear sky.
We are in Chiapas, Mexico, and
Bienvenidos.
Bienvenidos, sí. And we're in Palenque, one of the old Mayan sites. My understanding of it was that it was one of their temple sites. A lot of religious activities happened here, perhaps the Mayan equivalent of Machu Picchu for the Incas. And we haven't taken the tour yet. We'll do that tomorrow.
That's the Temple of Inscriptions behind us, and it's named that because of the stone stela that was discovered there, which has some of the most Mayan hieroglyphics on it of any discovery in the Mayan kingdom.
Also, we're in an area in Chiapas that speaks 12 Mayan dialects still today. So it's not just one language, it's a series of 12 languages, I guess. And how many people?
11 million people in Chiapas, the Yucatan, and Tabasco speak some kind of Mayan language. So that gives us some idea of the diversity and the expanse of the Mayan kingdom, if so many people are still speaking Mayan languages today.
Meanwhile, it's approaching the end of the day, and the howler monkeys are starting to make noise as they do before sunset. And we are being asked to leave the site now, as it's the end of their day. So we'll be back tomorrow with an English guide.
Cool.
And we'll tell you all sorts of more interesting and wonderful things about this place, other than it's 30 degrees and we're all hot, coming out of minus 12.
We came back from dinner and there was a dead scorpion on the floor.
And we're not even in Scorpio.
Here we are at Palenque in Chiapas, Mexico, this incredible ruin in one of the centers of the Mayan classical Mayan empire. One of the things we learned today from our awesome guide, Nacho, was that the entire grounds is basically one gigantic astronomical observation opportunity. So, for example, in this building behind us, the sun shines through the honeycomb at the winter solstice, and also on the full moon every 18 years, so we know how precise their astronomical observations were. And this building behind us was the same, but now the sun can't go through there because of the jungle behind it. And actually that whole big hill, there's another temple hiding beneath the jungle there. Only 3% of the grounds of the settlement has been excavated, and another 97% remain to be discovered.
So this was really the home of the nobility, the upper class, and the peasants lived outside in clay, adobe, or wood huts. And they didn't have war in their society because it was structured in such a way that when the peasants died or were sacrificed, they thought they were going straight to the god realm. They would come here, they would be bathed, they would be drugged, they would be told they were joining their gods, and they knew there were gods because of the astronomical observations and the way the buildings are structured. The interesting thing is that information is knowledge is power, so this revolution in information and knowledge has also created democracy, and with democracies come wars, because capitalism based on democracy structures itself in such a way that the capitalism or money is the new power, and so now you have to have wars to get rid of all the extra population. So the revolution at that time was from the top down. The priests and the nobility brought knowledge, information, integration, a community that functioned, so wars weren't necessary. Ours has gone the other way. It's created capitalism and democracy and division, which means the wars have to happen from that perspective. So the new revolution is the counterculture, or the alternative ways of living in our Aquarian age, and so now the revolution is happening from the bottom up. And the funny thing about all this is that the Mayan civilization is much closer to the bottom-up revolution of the Aquarian Age than it ever was to what we have right now. So stay tuned, 1,000 years, we're going to have a cooperative democratic society, we're going to drop out the wars, we're going to find ways to limit population so we don't overconsume our resources, and we'll meet in the middle.
Like the traditional Mayans did.
Just like that, minus the sacrifices.
Well, this is a fantastic place. It's just quite amazing to be exposed to all of this knowledge, particularly with our guide, going back to how they measured time, how they lived holistically, completely in this Mayan culture. I think in our modern age we can relate to this just in terms of what we need to heal the planet. It's really another facet of what has been done in the past that we can learn from.
Knew we were coming back today, called his friend who speaks English. Because we tipped him well and we were nice people, he found us the guide that was... So when the guy says, "Tony, can I wash your car, protect your car?" You go, "Yeah, it's part of the economy, so yeah, you can protect it." And then that guy tells the other guy, and so when it comes to get something else, you're part of the family rather than just, don't take advantage. So we got this guide because of our dialogue with Jose yesterday. If you're with standoffish people, then you kind of give them some space, because otherwise, so you gotta mesh with your environment. You gotta blend with your world.
Today we are heading to Frontera Corozal, where we're going to catch a boat upriver to the Mayan ruins of Yaxchilan, which are only accessible by boat and are on an oxbow in the river, totally protected on 3 sides. And tomorrow we're going to head to Bonampak, another Mayan ruin, which was recently uncovered and is beautiful frescoes still in the original colors.
Hi, it's Maureen.
Hey Mo! Mo is taking on Mexico. Following our fearless Qapel and Sensei in the red car. Will we get all 4 wheels off the asphalt?
We will. It's the Dukes of Clear Skies.
Okay, well, you're looking at Mexico. The other side of Hello, Pedro. The other side of this hill is Guatemala. Mayans needed to invent an elevator.
That's why you
Going
get your
up
people.
these many stairs in 30-degree weather in the middle of the day to get sacrificed to the sun god as either a crocodile or a jaguar. And if we don't make it, it's been nice snowing. 15 years, 20 years, 25 years after they met him. And the people that stopped climbing stopped working. So they plateaued, right? But if you understood the teaching, you keep climbing till the day you die.
That's what we're going to do.
Prefer to do it in colder weather.
They are the 4 cardinal points. Well, in the north, right here, white color. It is the one symbol our life. Everybody. In the south, this way, yellow. It is mean our food. In the east, the sunrise, red color. symboling are with black. And then in the west side, black color, it is mean this one. Underworld, the place of the devil.
So in ancient Japan, men and women ruled together as a pair, and it's a basically a yin-yang sort of thing. And here at the ruins that we just saw, there were women depicted in important sculptural stela. And the descriptions that were written would kind of say, oh, this is one of the main rulers, Jaguar Shield, and his wife. And sometimes they'd give her name, mostly not. And I'm wondering if it looked like, from the way they were depicted, there were a lot of women depicted on these stela in prominent positions together with men, and that would sort of indicate that they were important in the power structure, not just as supports for the men, but in their own right. So it seems to me a lot of this we're discovering way after the fact, like history's being constructed as this patriarchal thing. But if we go back and look more closely, we realize it wasn't that patriarchal, that's just a lay-on that we've done in relatively recent history, like the 19th and 20th century. So we're kind of rediscovering that actually there was a more balance of power between the males and females than we realized. I'm reading a book about this, Passionate Enlightenment by Miranda Shaw, that talks about this in Tibetan Buddhism also. They'll kind of refer to these great Tibetan teachers or great Vajrayana teachers, and there'll be a kind of footnote, oh, and he went and got teachings from a Dakini, and the Dakini was an actual woman, but they kind of act as though she was minor. But it's very clear that he got very important teachers from her, which means that she must have been a great teacher. And you can see a lot of instances of this in Vajrayana history.
We're at Bonampak City, and it has the best murals of the Mayan culture. This is a ruler receiving offerings. Looks like warriors, perhaps, or maybe players of the ball game ceremony. And we can see down here, these are musicians playing drums on the left and maracas on the right at Bonampak, Chiapas, Mexico.
And the outside was all painted just as the inside is.
Todas estas habitaciones no fueron habitacional, fue centro ceremonial.
These were centers for the ceremonies.
Todo lo que vieron adentro de cada cuarto ya está escarbado y todo lo que se encontró fue llevado al Museo de Antropología. Lo que se encontró como cerámicas, piedras de jade, navajas
They had a
obsidianas.
lot of artifacts, but those were all taken to the Anthropology Museum. ¿Cuál Museo de Antropología?
De la Ciudad de México.
Oh, it's all in Mexico City.
El
So
cuarto.
there were ceramics and jade ornaments and things like that, but they took all that to the museum.
En medio, el gobernante de Bonampak.
In the middle is the ruler of Bonampak,
La de enfrente es la madre del gobernante.
and that's his mother on the right.
Y la de atrás, la princesa de Yaxchilán, hermana de Escudo Jaguar, esposa del gobernante.
And on the left is the sister of Jaguar Shield, who was the ruler of Yaxchilán. You know what I mean? And she married the ruler of Bonampak.
Invade Troy. Like, like why start a whole fucking war for one woman if she wasn't important? So yeah, there's a lot of overwrite. He who wins the war writes the history book, right? So some people say it was agriculture because agriculture required more brute strength, so the men got in charge of the bigger jobs, and the women got the more lightweight jobs. Some said it was hunting.
Women do so much of the planting of the seeds and
Yeah.
caring of the plant.
Yeah. I'm not arguing their importance, but
yes,
just
we're discussing.
when does the thing turn?
I think it's related to corsets
High heel shoes.
and high heel shoes. Although men wore heels too.
They did. Maybe it had to do with more organized warfare. When warfare required metal or heavier weapons. But maybe it goes back to that classic thing where men's job is to defend and protect, and women's job is to nourish. And maybe as the world got more crowded, more wars happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll get to the bottom of it. It may take years, but we will.
Well, and then you had people like Queen Isabella and Catherine the Great, and lots of women who left a mark.
Right, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth.
And what's her name was Hildegard the Bing, who had great political influence. Chia. Cutters go out and the leaf cutters come back, and they make these trails.
Isn't that phenomenal what such a small thing can do?
The Leaf Cutter Ant Trail.
We're on this great road in the middle of Chiapas state in Mexico. And I was reading in the Lonely Planet Mexico book last night that it's called the Carretera Fronteriza, and it more or less encircles the main area of the Zapatista rebel activity. So human and drug trafficking are common in this area, and although it looks so beautiful and pleasant at this time of day, 8:30 in the morning, they're saying that it's really best if you get off this road before dusk, and no public transportation ever runs after dark on this road.
Buenos dias. Off to the jungle.
Now if we're really quiet, we might be able to find a wild moe in her natural habitat. Ah! Oh, hi Mo. How are you finding Mexico?
I'm loving Mexico. It's warm, it's friendly, it's interesting. It's perfect. Everyone should go on a Dharma trip.
Well, as you will read in our book, Wasteland to Pure Land, Catherine and I, we talked about the various models of spiritual training, and we got to remember that all spiritual development and growth is based on training. as like any other profession, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer, you have to learn to be trained, right? And so we take a certain amount of training in our youth to get a career, or from our parents in terms of how to function in our society. But by the time we've done that, we've sort of felt like we're sort of done with training. Unless, of course, it's for a hobby like, say, horseback riding or archery or golf or something. We're willing to take training for that. But the spiritual life is a training that is undertaken by adults once they've already graduated to life. In other words, they already have their careers, they already have their professions, they already know how to function in life, but it's not enough. So at this point, they need to undertake a higher training, and a higher training is a spiritual training. Now, the thing with a spiritual training is it's not just training you about a subject like math or physics. It's training you about how to be a human being, and that we think we've already done. So there's your first problem, is no adult human being wants to be trained in how to be a human being. They just want to be trained in how to be a lawyer. So anyway, in the past, the two ways of doing that was the yogic model, which is you lived in the woods with, or in the forest or in the mountains with your guru, whether it was Buddha or Jesus Christ or whoever. And the second methodology was monastic, which was when things got bigger and more complicated. And so the 1960s and 1950s, 1940s, 1970s model in North America was a yogic model because these new teachings were being brought in, the liberative teachings of, say, the East had been brought in to a new country. So in that sense, it was a yogic period. And in that yogic period, your training was kind of personal with your teacher, one-on-one, and so on, like with Trungpa or Namgyal Rinpoche, our teacher. But since then, things have moved on, and we're now more in a monastic model. But nobody in our modern Western world, really, not many in our modern Western world, want to live under the same monastic rules of, say, the previous 3 centuries, where, like, no drinking, no sex, no extraneous interests like science or physics or art or music. It was the old models focused very much just on the religious training. So the modern monastic training has to involve relationships, it has to involve career, it has to involve perhaps family and one's interests and hobbies that are beyond just, for instance, spiritual training and meditation or therapeutic models. So we're into this new phase where the guru, in a sense, becomes not only the person, the teacher, but the guru is also life in general. But you're not going to get the training specifically from life in general, and so the monastic training that you get in a modern sense is going to be much more group guru than it was in the past. In the past, it was solitary guru, solitary teacher. It's very Piscean. But in the Aquarian period that we're moving into, that we're now in, the guru is going to be more of a group guru. It's going to be team learning, team development. And you can see that in society, because in the old days you could build a house, but to run an airport or to build a high-story building, 50-floor building, you need a team of people to do that, architects, engineers, and so on. So the guru principle is going to be mirrored in that as well. And so now you're seeing teachers emerge as small teams. For instance, Catherine and I co-teach, and we know how friends and teachers who also co-teach. And so this co-teaching model and this more liberal sense of the monastic environment. But when we do that, we think we can drop out the training. We don't need to be instructed or trained in a particular way of behaving or acting or responding to conditions. And regardless of when it was 2,000 years ago or now, the same principle applies, that in order to retrain the human being to be a spiritual being, we have to take apart, in a sense, the training of our conditioned upbringing from 0 to adulthood. So in a sense, you have to go back in, you have to deconstruct that in some ways, take it back to base 0 for the spiritual being to emerge. It's a bit like a butterfly from a caterpillar. But the problem with most adults is they're already adults. They don't want to go back to that caterpillar to butterfly motif. They think they're in a cult, or they think they're being abused or being mistreated, and in some cases I'm sure that's true, but regardless of whether it's true or not, the principle stays the same. You have to be deconstructed back to the ground of your being once you're an adult and rebuilt up as a spiritual being. And that's the training that every monastic discipline has done time immemorial, and it isn't going to change whether people like it or not.
I feel like a chunk of marble, and The artwork that's underneath needs to be revealed, and the process of the teaching and the training is like, at this stage, feels like the big chisels and the big grinders just smacking away and grinding and ripping off big chunks of rock. So for the ego, that doesn't feel very pleasant at all, and it's part of the process to get to the beauty underneath.
The sculptor you are, the sculpture you are to become. And all we do is remove the chunks. We don't actually determine what the statue is.
Right.
So if we decide that we want to move the Dharma south into southern Mexico, we can just take a few moments and move our temple down here. The building's already here. Just add a few more dimensions and we're all set. Yeah, it's a function of intelligence. The more intelligent you are, the more discontented you should probably be. The problem with the mainstream of American or Canadian, European discontent is they're discontented about the system itself rather than, they're discontented about their place or their role or, their expected position in the system. But what they should really be discontented about is the system itself. But to be discontented about the system itself implies you seriously got to do something about it. And the real discontent is nobody figures they really can. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to go at. They don't know what to pick on.
Red Lord parrot up in the tree there, up in the nest.
And we'll stop for the Red Lord parrot. Where are you looking?
Poking its head out of the nest hole there.
Awesome. So the people feel paralyzed or ineffective or that they can't do anything about it or it's all tied up or it's all tied down. And so the real revolution is people have to get really, 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 really angry about the system and be willing to do something about it. That risks their own kind of hopeful or expected well-beingness, which is exactly what they're anxious about. So they got to revolt against their own attempt to be content in a system that doesn't work. And that's really a big challenge because you can't do it as a group. You can't do it as a team because everything's tied to everything else. You have to do it as an individual and then find other individuals who want to do it. And probably the big revolution of the future is a form of communism, communal living, communal businesses, communal cooperations, and then the connection of cooperatives to each other and so on. But as long as capitalism has the grass, it'll always be a dog-eat-dog world. It's a system of warlords.
We are in a coniferous forest.
We just climbed a viewing tower about 80 feet up to have a look at a number of the lakes. There's 59 lakes in this area, all small lakes, each one a different color.
The Qapel and Sensei just popped up.
What a view. Estupendo.
stability, all because North Americans are sitting fat and stupid, right? You're in a bubble, right? You're in a bubble. And if you're not really fucking careful, that's the future of humanity, not this. That is. It's just spreading. Just spreading. Number one, people won't control their population. Number two, people won't recognize what's in their best interest. And number three, they won't enforce it. So you better get that tyrant back in your fucking lives real quick to the wholesome, passionate, and restraint. Okay? In Mexico, and we're in the middle of a festival, and the festival starts this guy here. He's the number one dancer, and this is my amigo from Mexico. His name, what's your name? Daniel Morales. Let's have fun.
To get rid of the wall.
Gracias, señor. If you want to find a Mexican festival, you got to find a place where the people are at, and it's not in the big cities, it's in the countryside, so we're in a little town somewhere.
Zoke culture.
Zoke culture? Zoke culture, thank you. Zoke culture, everybody's been talking. Everybody's feeding us, everybody's drinking us, they're asking us to join in. Some of us stand off North American.
aplauso. ¿De dónde nos visitan? De Monterrey, Nuevo León. Bienvenidos nuestros amigos y muchas felicidades por el Día de la Familia. Felicidades para todos ustedes, esperando que se lo sigan pasando muy bien esta noche aquí en el centro de la ciudad. Bienvenidos. Un gusto para nuestros amigos de Mexicali, la cacharilla.
Pipí is decir
Orina.
orina. Sometimes they pee on people. So be careful.